Well, what really shocked me in my reporting is that schools have gone from, blocking ChatGPT consistently in November 2022 when it came out to fairly consistently embracing it in the classroom. So the six biggest school districts in the country, including New York's, which was one of the ones that blocked it all those years ago, are introducing AI products into their district. So that doesn't mean only allowing students to use it. It also means signing contracts with tech companies to bring these products into the class.
So tell us how schools are using it.
So what the companies are encouraging is teachers using these products to do things like come up with lesson plans. So a teacher might say, hey, Gemini, I need to teach a lesson in 30 minutes on the American Revolution. Write me a lesson plan. And Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever product will generate the lesson plan. They are also saying teachers might think about having these products develop things like quizzes and then rubrics for grading the quizzes. And then students, they say, could use these products to engage with, character chatbots representing historical figures in a way that the companies claim will make learning more engaging, will make learning more effective.
Look, I kind of see this.
Like talking with a historical figure. I love that idea.
Yeah, I mean, you open your piece talking about a chatbot modeled after Elie Wiesel, who wrote the classic Holocaust memoir, Night. And anytime you can, and if you've used these services, Carol, it's like they can be engaging to the point of being like too engaging. And a lot has been written about that recently.
Yeah.
And what happens there. But I'm wondering, Vauhini, how you do this in a way that is actually educational and not just like what is going to be the proof that this is actually helping kids learn?
Well, that's the challenge. So I'm a journalist. I'm not a researcher, but luckily there are a lot of researchers out there studying these AI products and how they function. And researchers who sort of look at the body of research across the board are saying that there is no conclusive evidence that these products are effective. There's some evidence that suggests maybe they could be effective, but then there's also research that suggests they could be ineffective and also potentially harmful. So the jury is very much still out. And what that means is that some research, according to some researchers, districts may be putting these products into the classroom prematurely because we just don't know how they work.
It's interesting. I think about technology, and especially in underserved areas of the country or undersourced areas where education may be lacking. I'm just wondering, is there a way that this can be much more helpful? But I also do worry about, all the concerns about whether or not we're teaching several generations, like, not to really think through things, right?
But did they say that about other technology? That's what I always wonder. Did they say that about the internet when, we were pushing internet access in schools and what that ended up doing?
I don't know, but is this do people say it's the same thing?
I mean, I think the question is typically when educators talk about bringing products into their classrooms, or not even products, bringing strategies into the classroom, the thing to do is to look at the research on how these things function and then make determinations within an academic setting about what to bring in. And I think what's worrying some researchers is that it appears that the proliferation of AI products in classrooms right now is being driven largely by the interests of tech companies who have a financial interest in getting those products into classrooms. And then districts, to your point, are particularly financially strapped and politically challenged right now, and they do need resources. And these companies then come along and say, well, we can offer AI products that are going to be cheap or free, very low cost. We can offer training to you for free. And districts then feel in a position to say, well, we don't have the resources to do the things that are proven to help, like hiring more teachers, offering more professional development to teachers in areas in which teachers really need professional development. But we're being offered these other things for free or at a very low cost. And so maybe we should just try it out.
You visited at least one high school for reporting this piece, and I'm wondering what you saw in terms of the way that students interacted with technology, because a lot of what we hear about is getting phones out of the classroom.
So I visited a campus in Austin, Texas, of a private school called Alpha. And what I saw there was really surprising to me. This is a school that bills itself as using AI to squeeze into 2 hours what a student normally learns in 6 hours. What that looked like in practice was kids with headphones over their ears, sitting individually at computers, at their laptops, going through these sort of video and text-based modules that were delivering them information. And then at the end, they would take this little quiz to show that they had, quote unquote, mastered the information in that module. And then after 2 or 3 hours, they would take their headset off and work on these individual projects of theirs. Interestingly, the majority of those projects also had to do with AI. I think partly because the school celebrates AI so much. So there were projects like making startups that would create stuffed animals that would dispense advice using AI generated text and voice.
It's so funny. I'm listening to you talk, and all I could think about is something we used to do. It was called SRA reading, and it was these books and these color coded, and you'd read a card and you'd have to read it and then answer questions, and you'd advance through it. And we would do this kind of on our own, and it kind of just sounds like a high-tech version of this. And I don't know that it was bad. It was very independent, and it was all about kind of literacy and reading comprehension. But it sounds a lot like that, just in a high-tech form.
Well, the element that's added at this particular school, Alpha School, is that, as it turns out, my reporting revealed that the school is actually a subsidiary of a tech company. So it turns out the school it can be seen as a kind of in-house distribution channel for this big tech company based in Austin called Trilogy, run by an Austin billionaire named Joe Lamont. And the school doesn't really announce itself to be an arm of a tech company, but it is. And so all kinds of questions arise from there, right? About whose interests are being served when technology like this is deployed to students. The school also, and it has this very expansive privacy policy that says it can use webcams and microphones and screenshots and screen videos to record students as they're using the products in a continuous way. And then the claim is that they then use that information to give feedback to students about how to use the product. However, the privacy policy also allows for the company to share students' personal information with third-party companies, for example, for unspecified reasons. The company, the private school, says in response that they only do, in practice, they only use that information to improve student outcomes and improve products. But you can see the ways in which all the interests get a little entangled. We assume that at school, the primary interest is the interest of students and their education. But when technology comes into play, especially in a context like this, that can go out the window.